Sometimes speed is just as mean when you make it to get stuck in with the green machine. Whoa! Today we have a wall tactics after action report where we're going to be talking about my run at my, friendly local RTT Rogue Trader tournament with a cultist speed list that I cooked up with. So we're going to definitely give details on that list, talk about the games. I have pictures when we go through the scoring. I'll point out some things for each game that were important, and so much more. So thank you for this. I want to do at least one of these once a month. So be sure to let me know how this goes, how they can improve, and what you think. Just so you can see, here it was. Ended up first place, 3-0, real nice scores. As this list was really catching people off guard, the meta wasn't really prepared for it. What I will say is that this was when we still had the Eldar menace. I am a little bit behind on actually putting this forward, so sorry about that. But I did end up playing into the Eldar menace, so it was still nice to see me go up against stuff that was actually had some teeth. And I'll give my thoughts at the end of the video as to what I think this will do going forward into the meta that we have. So with that being said, here's a picture of the list. For the most part, I did borrow my third copter unit. That's why it's up there looking ugly. So the third one I used was actually painted from someone I know. So thank you for that. And so I could run it. If I keep using this, obviously I'll get those guys done. So let's look at this list real quick and I'll give my thoughts about it. It's called No Gas, All Gas. Oh, sorry, gas. Sorry, no gas, all gas. Sorry, I messed that up. Tongue twisted. So, what was interesting about this list is I had already been running other Cult of Speed lists. If you've been following, the channel members, Patreon, and people voted for this. The community voted for what detachment I should be running to do my other after action reports on. So I was running other Cult of Speed variations where I had a lot more buggies, and it was a lot of fun. But a lot of feedback I was getting from my more competitive minded opponents was the buggies are quite unreliable and holding you back. So shout out to my buddy Jordan, where he came and talked to me after some games we had at an RTT, and he was like, "Well, honestly, you should kind of look at some of the thoughts I was looking at. What do you think about this battle lagging with 20 boys?" And I was like, "Ah, it feels like a trap. It's such a big investment. I like all of my cheap, trashy stuff." And he gives an argument for why he thinks it's one of the better reasons to play the detachment. So I'm like, all right, all right. And he wanted me to use another Death Killer War Trike where I was like, and one more biker unit. And I was kind of like, well, I don't know. So I fit those on the list after some good advice. And that's why it's good to listen to the gets that you play with for to a certain degree, right? Always take feedback, being humble, but also open minded, even though this did end up morphing into more of a mono build where you see there's a lot of duplication of everything. In reality, that also helps with the clock management, right? So keep that in mind that it's not that I just didn't want to play with buggies or anything like that. I'm just trying to sweat super hard. It's also for the clock measure. Buggies were taking a lot of time with their weird profiles, going through them and switching them up and such like that. So you find them very fun, very cool. But when I'm just trying to play fast and get stuff done, and it was also kind of a benefit in that way as well. Everything also had a purpose and a tool, so I had fun with that. I think you could totally play either way, but this definitely felt far more competitive and was really putting everybody on their back foot that I played with. And it was gaining a lot of attention at the event from everyone that knew they could face me or not. Was like, this is really weird. So let's talk about this really weird yet fun stuff that we got. We have two Death Killer War Trikes, one with WAAAGH Blasta. So that's the enhancement for if you shoot, then you can scoot, but you can't charge, right? So the Death Killer War Trike is a kind of cool in this detachment for the fact that he does have that Melta. It's not really reliable to hit with it, but he also has the Flamer. And the Flamer gets an additional AP, just like the Bikers would give, obviously. So we can get up to AP -2 and ignore cover. So that could be kind of interesting in some matchups to get off with the small arms fire. It usually catches people off guard from the bikers. Twin linked is being involved in there as well. Pretty nice in that case. Didn't ever have to use it personally yet, but I can see situations like if you want to move block Vitrix guard or something, WAAAGH Blaster could be an interesting in that case. But I do find it myself usually liking to get a charge off with as many units as possible, as you'll see as we show every game. Then we move on to, before I talk about the war boss, we're talking about Zagra. So Zagra is all about just being able to put people on the back foot and threaten them from very far away with infantry that can move through terrain and not really get so bogged down from buildings and such, as I already have a lot of biker based styles to things. And so I decided, hey, I'll bring him, and he definitely proves to be quite important and interesting pretty much every game. Takes a lot of investment. He can always kind of target stuff, and you'll see how I use that in every single game essentially. Very similar, same kind of way, and how he also punches up in some cool game play. Then we go to the war boss. So of course he's getting 20 boys and a battle wagon. Now some questions might be immediately, why didn't you pay for a pain boy or some sort of other character? In reality, he just points. I kind of feel like the pain boy is a little bit expensive for where he's at, and to be honest, where we're at this late in the edition, with how the metas work out, when people decide they're going to erase that boy unit, he's erased, right? That Bane boy really doesn't change to kind of match up too much in that case, but then I just start just being a bigger investment on something that I'm already paying for in this 35-point enhancement. So in that case, I just ended up using the points instead for the Shock Drum Dragsta essentially. And the Shock Drum Dragsta did come up with making points for good screening. Board control stayed, then kind of secured that last little hole when everything's going forward where I can systematically pick this up and fill in the gaps. So yeah, cool shock jump drags in that case. Kind of you can think of it in that way. But it's a good question. Then we go to triple def comptos. I was constantly going back and forth on do I want 2 or 3. If you've seen me on stream, I actually do show some of my practice games on stream, so be on the lookout for that in the Discord and such. I put more info out on that if you guys want to watch those. But I was doing some practice games, and I was like, fine, I'm gonna put 3 Def Cop the bricks forward against kind of some of my matchups, which were both Marine practice matchups. And I was like, let me just test the durability. It's not that I'm using this for an overwhelming, I can frontline them and throw them forward durability case, but the ablative wounds and T6 and 4 wounds of pop and access to a form of invuln does take a true amount of investment. Yet this ends up being really the third layer of my army. So if you're ever fighting your Death Killer War Trikes and you're throwing them forward turn 1 to get shots off on people, or turn 2 to be kind of thirsty for shooting, it's not necessarily always the best plan unless that matchup really calls for it. So whenever you're looking at this list, you'll see that Death Compass are the final layer of the list. As you're already seen, I have Zod, and as we look forward, we'll see that I have 2 Mando units. So that was a last minute kind of thing that I finally conceded to also using. It's funny in my other after action report where I was using Warhorde, that was more for fun. I don't think I would do that again, but in this case, this was definitely worth doing. You'll see when I play the games how I use these guys to really take control of the middle of the table, always be in control of my push, be in control of where the enemy scouting and infiltrating can go. And it was a huge impact. And I definitely would always keep the 20, at least with this kind of style list that I was running forward, just because having control of the everybody else kind of felt really important. Now, do I think everybody has to do it? Nah, you can drop if you really want to drop one. I'm sure you can still do a very similar thing, but as we'll talk about it, my 5-man little Mando units were also scoring me points and stopping enemy reserves. So I felt like they were worth it to just be reliably get into place. Um, then we have, of course, the 3 big bricks of war bikers. Now, one of them didn't have a trike, was definitely worth not doing that, not having a treating a trike for him, because it's such a big base. And I really just wanted another biker unit that can kind of skirt the field, make a line, do different kind of movement plays and shenanigans as a non-leader type unit. Still really good cheap on points for the wounds and how much it can do. So yeah, that was pretty sick. And it did matter in the games definitely to not have them. So this definitely felt like the right ratio to trikes to bikes. And yeah, it was definitely a little bit to get me there, but I definitely appreciated doing that. Um, Anything else that I think that needs to be said, we'll be saying in the matchup. But nonetheless, this how this works in layers is obviously Mandos, and then either the bikers will come forward or Zod and the boys will come forward. Some variation of that as you see throughout the game goes out. But the Def Coptas generally come around turn 3 to really make their impact. And for that reason, one is always going into Deep Strike as well. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. The first matchup here that I had was into Custodians. I'll just tell you his list real quick before we go into it. He was the Lines of the Emperor, Alea Blade Champions, triple Blade Champions, and then one Shield Captain with the Lars Terminator with this enhancement that allowed him to like mitigate damage to 0 and superior creation so we can get back up with this guy. He had 4 of the 4-man units of Custodian Guard, 2 units of Cladius Grav Tanks, 2 prosecutors, a vigilator, an assassin, and an Inquisitor Draxus. So in this matchup, we'll show real quick what that ended up looking like. But I would say he was definitely a newer guy, and he didn't really understand what was happening. He was definitely confident because he had played a bunch of games, and he said he was very familiar with orcs, but he wasn't familiar with this style of orcs, and he just already kind of had his game plan set. So this was mission F. I believe if I put the right mission, sorry guys. And hidden supplies, yeah, terrain layout 8, Crucible of Battle, and my army went first, and I also got to deploy first. As you can see, the score was very one-sided. He had to come to the middle of the table, and he never really got the chance to do that. When we also did over deployments, and I was explaining my army to him, I didn't think he really was understanding how quick I would get on him and how impactful I could be. So he ended up putting some of those Guardian units into Deep Strike. And as you'll see what happened with that in the game, they really weren't able to make an impact. So I was kind of already rushing because I was trying to explain to him my army to kind of mitigate, kind of make it clear to him, but he didn't really, know, and that's okay, right? He even took it like a man on the chin. He was pretty much orc at heart because he was like, "Yeah, I never experienced something like that, but you live and you learn." So cool. So just real quick, I did, like I said, I was going to a little too fast. Sorry about that. I'll get better with these pictures of my deployments. But how it pretty much went is my battle wagon was roughly right because Crucible Battle, if you didn't know, is this line. Oops, that was an ugly line. Sorry, if you look on the screen, you guys can see, essentially goes like that. So my wagon was right in this little pocket. He went forward about 6 inches, pivoted, moved forward a couple inches, and the battle wagon got out. I had the war bikers that were right here set up that they could run down the field and got a big advance. Those did not have the character. The other trike was set up somewhere right here in the middle, and he came down here with his auto 6. Not sure where I really wanted to go, but then I realized I definitely was going to try to go over here. This unit ended up not really making a charge, and since he was Lions, he could reactive if I shot this unit or this unit, which I couldn't really shoot that unit, but with this unit, so I decided not to shoot. And then here's my little dice because I was marking where this trike unit could go, as this trike unit was back here. I'll just kind of say it how it is, and I'm not saying this, kind of making it up. I had never played with this list before. The practice event that I showed on stream, I lost my games with the other variation of buggy list into Vitrix Guard, and had that talks with my friends after, and they were like, "I know your event's tomorrow, but switch to something without buggies." And I was like, "Fine." I put this together, and I just ran it out. So I really wasn't sure how to get it all on deployment so clearly. I'd played a bunch of games with Cult of Speed. Don't get me wrong, so I was very familiar with what I was going to do, but I hadn't really practically done it. See, I was all over the place with moving my guys, kind of like, okay, I'm on top of myself, and I adjusted throughout the rest of the games pretty well on that. Of course, I have my little cop bikers back here. This like I said, drags to fill space while everybody else gets ready to screen. I mean, he gets ready to screen, everybody moves forward. The Coptas, this is where they were deployed. This was in the middle of my first turn movement. You can see here Zod, and he's going to come forward as we look at the next pictures. But like I said, I did go first, and we'll show the enemy's deployment. Don't worry. This is one of the 5-man commandos that I had here, and then the other 5-man commandos. I believe the other mandos are also inside of here. I went really mando heavy on this side. I believe I put all 3 5-mans like right inside of here, and then I put this one 5-man right over here. And one of those units, of course, like I said, Coptas and Deep Strike. So let's look for a better point of view over here. Yeah, you can see there the Coptas. I mean the mandos I was talking about. So on the other, his more side of view, this is the other picture I took in my movement while I was setting up with my boys and such. Is these guys came forward. I did call a turn 1 wall, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get some of these moves off, of course. So this Mando unit came forward and was gonna charge this unit until he told me it has fight first. So instead, they stood there. Like I said, bikers got a big charge off. These 2 guys came forward to get ready to hold this and start doing secondaries. I can look at what my secondary was. I'll say what my secondary was in a second, but you'll see that it didn't really matter because I really was put the pressure on him real heavy, and it did end up working out in my favor. So like I said, he doesn't shoot, but this guy does make a charge off there, and I'm prepared for that. This is where they're coming. The boys are getting out to charge there. And you can see he put the other units of Custodian Guard in his deep strike as he wanted to use his detachment ability. And then he has a little assassin up in this building right here. So as you can see, it's going to go down here very quickly. Here's another point of view of how already I'm right on him before I even make the charges off. That's showing again his side of the field where my biker is and his one blade champion unit that he still has on the field. This is how it looks after my infantry finally moves forward completely with the boys and the Zagra Wartsnagger unit. So here are the boys. Oops, sorry, I got the picture too quickly. Here are the boys. They end up making a charge into this Guardian unit that has the Inquisitor in it. I do fishtail, get one guy to touch this tank. So I just wanted to touch this tank just really to hold it down so it doesn't choose its targets. And that's really what you see I use throughout the entire event, where I'm just constantly just trying to touch stuff. This fails its charge, that's fine, but Zagra comes out of that building, beelines it, gets this charge off through here, and then it's just him and the grunt herders fighting, and then the bikers fighting over there. So here we have early game charges on turn one, which means he's not going to be taking advantage of stratagems like interrupt, and that's how this, is really trying to work. I'm trying to run on you before you get out your awesome abilities and start tearing your army apart. So with the CP I do have, I end up using the CP for Lance when I go into this unit with this biker unit so that they can go in there. I believe I ended up fighting with Zod first though, and he pulled down a couple guys because Zod fights quite well, right? He's gonna wound them on twos, he's hitting them on twos. He's so that's pretty sick, awesome in that case. So between all of this fighting, I ended up to kill this entire unit, and it Blade Champion does fight on death, of course, because he has superior creation. He does spend the CP, so he can fight on death, and he takes out like half the biker unit, but not the entire biker unit, because not everybody gets their rolls off. As for this Guardian unit that gets into the fight with 20 boys, again somehow he's rolled bad. I wasn't expecting to kill the entire unit, but yes, I killed the entire unit where he just rolled terrible saves with his four dudes and the character, so he ended up dying there. Can't expect that, but I was prepared to just hold him there in position anyways, and it wouldn't have been a problem if they didn't die regardless. So he wouldn't have been able to chew himself through all that, and I still had plenty of things to get on him. But this was showed the cascade and how this was very one-sided. So here is that picture after that blade champion is there. He has him sent over because he wants to stand up and everything. Here's how it looks after those guys move forward and beat up the Guardians. And as you can see, I still have all these Coptas on the field, all these bikers on the field. And this point, the guy already understands that he is in an unwinnable, unattainable position, because as he comes forward, you're going to see he's going to be able to bring in one unit right here only, and he can't bring up anything else here. As when we move out with the other turns with what's coming in for his deep strike, he simply can't get them forward. So you see my biker move forward. This is after he responds with the very tiny little to nothing he has to respond with. There's he brings in his one Terminator, just kind of like oops. And then I come forward. I do have bring it down here, and I do bring down, I believe it's this one because the melter goes off and these Coptas come forward and use strats on it. So I kill that. This biker unit comes forward and kills everybody there. And in reality, guys, table's just completely filled. I'm just drawing my secondaries, and he's just not able to really do anything anymore. Like I said, when I showed the score, in this case, I ended up getting sabotage with the commandos and extend battle lines for turn one. We had bring it down on turn two, like I said, where I took down one of those grav tanks and cleanse. Plenty of stuff still in the middle. I had tempting target turn three, and secure no man's land. And then I had area denial behind enemy lines for four, display of mine engage on all fronts. So yeah, with he lived and he learned, and I realized what I was really getting into there. So then we moved on to the second game, which was pre-nerfed Eldari. This was Purge the Foe, Layout 8, Dawn of War, and I went first again. As you look to see that he got a really low score for Purge, we'll talk about that, and this would actually lead to some good questions I have for just the community as a whole. But once you see how the mission was looking like, and he pretty much didn't want to even attempt to kill stuff anymore, he pretty much played it as if he had climbed out because he gets overran essentially turn one and isn't able to do much. And I just systematically kill what's remaining so I can keep scoring purge. So here he is. Here's our turn one. Once we actually get my deployment picture and I had my infiltration picker, I knew this was going to be absolutely huge and vital to this matchup, and it was. So in this matchup, I took 10 commandos and I stayed one big unit because I knew he had his own types of infiltrators and scouting. And I said, no, 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 none of that. These guys are just going to go forward. And we're going to be 9 inches directly away from you. And that's that. So then he can't do any infiltration in that case. I take a 5-man and I put it here, and a 5-man and I put it here. I adjust my deployment to make much more sense with the battle wagon going over here. This is the correct move for this layout because it's a way cleaner way to move forward there. Still the same 6-man biker unit that doesn't have a leader coming down this lane was pretty much always going to be the right answer. Here's a Copta unit, another Copta unit, and then a lot of the time the shock jump jack ends up over here to fill up space while everybody moves forward. So that's how the deployment looks. As you can see, it's already quite aggressive in his face. This unit can really just go forward and make its charges off and shooting. This battle wagon as well can too if I go first, and so can this trike unit where these guys automatically go 6 and try to get as close as possible too. So let's look at how that looks, because as I said, I do go first. This is on his side again. Once he actually does, because he can do scout, so he decides to scout backwards with this unit right here, which I do actually try to take advantage of that. He has a bunch of characters inside of here. He was really just like, oh my gosh. Once he understood what my army could do, he was like, oh my gosh, I understand how you're going to get on me, and just I don't understand how I'm going to really stop or mitigate this. And it was an honest answer from him, and you can see why once you start showing the turn. It was really not, it was really a matchup difference. It was a great call to bring this while Eldar was still in the meta, because I understood Eldar was going to be a top here. You can see Drakari went undefeated here as well. So this was an understanding of what was in my meta, cleaner point of where my deployment was, where I had Zod behind the middle. Is he going to go forward and support as well? And here. Sorry, so many deployment pictures because it was actually quite important, and that's when I was the most already focused when I understood what was happening. So here is ugly picture of the result. I really should have had a picture of the charges, but I was already kind of like, wow, this is overbearing on the opponent. Like I said, I had never played this other than this. I never played this list other than this matchup. And to be honest, guys, I had heard about very similar styles of this list throughout the top competitive players. Now that the meta has shifted, I think they've moved away and no one really cares for it to that same degree. But this was 100% on everybody's radar at the very, very top of 40K. But generally, people either just didn't have the armies or weren't sure if they wanted to try to keep playing it. But people understood that this style of list was real. And you've heard them, if you've paid attention, they've explained that. And now you're seeing why they thought it was so real, especially when they were talking about it a couple months ago. So, and what happens here, if you look at the other picture, which I'll go back and forth with because I was ugly at taking my picture, is my Mandos come forward, and so does this trike unit. I don't declare a wall, so my wagon didn't go forward. It stays up here. The Zod unit just moves up right in here, and I will move everything forward. I didn't call a wall because I knew I could pretty much make contact with everything with my bikers because of how I had infiltrated so well. And so then I just went down the line with that and made attempts on Hell's units, understanding that the following turn, once he responded, I would attack him with all the boys and try to clean it up. I was vastly overwhelming. I mean, it's not overwhelming, sorry, overestimating the Eldar's output into my army, which they pretty much had no tools into this when you really pay attention to what they had. They had the fire dragon thing. Oh, I should have showed their list, but their list doesn't exist anymore because, like I said, they changed. So I guess that's why it doesn't matter. You can see he has some character banshees up here. He had the fire dragons up in this transport over here. He had a transport down here with those dark reapers. Then he had some swooping hawks down here. Then his guardian brick was right here. What ended up happening is that unit that had moved backwards, I came forward with the bikers. I attempted a charge off because he actually, I think he's moved right here to make the screen. Let me see if I can go back on my picture. Sorry, guys, a little ugly. Oop. There it is. So this picture shows it better, but I had sorry that it had to be the ugly poof. So these guys essentially move slightly more this way. I think when he did his scouting action. So I should have a picture of that. I'll definitely make it better at these guys the more I do them. So what I ended up doing to take advantage of that is because there's such small bases and he had them all kind of piled up right here, my Mandos moved forward 6 and then made a big charge. Actually, what? Sorry, let me explain that better. The Mandos moved forward 6, but then the bikers were able to um make the charge first through the Mandos that I'd spaced out, because I'd spaced them out so well that they were like in a dumb long line, which ended up working out in my favor, because when I declared the big charge and I got like an 8-inch charge, I think it was 9-inch charge, it was a big dumb charge. I was able to fit the Mandos in a way that they still had coherency, right? Like this guy fit here because I followed the base to basing rules. Some of those guys weren't in contact, weren't in fights, because I understood that once the bikers went and picked up the screen, these commandos were going to follow through and pile in, and they piled into this warp spire unit. It was only like 3 of the commandos, I think, that was able to do it, but it was able to kill at least 4 of those warp spiders. So I know I said that kind of jumbled because I should have had a picture of it. I thought I had a picture of it, but essentially there were some guys like this in a weird order where they were not spaced out too well. I charged them with the bikers first, kept my unit coherency for my Mandos by going like through them with the unit essentially, and then the Mandos made their charges off forward and kept going there. They had units up in this corner, and I made the charges off as well with this trike to kill it, and then try to kind of pile in and touch the objective and go around the corner to maintain pressure on him. So then we move into his response turn. He sees I'm right on top of him. He's really stressed, which is very fair, understandable. I'm not saying clowning it. I'm just saying that's just what happens when obviously you get all on top of people. So I killed like 4 5 units essentially. Like I didn't kill the whole unit, but I came close to killing that whole warp spider unit. Um, and so here he starts. This is how it looks, like I said, from the other side and from the top side. I made that charge, and because they were in a line here, and he had another kind of unit inside this building, these guys were able to pile in and consolidate into that Falcon. And so, yeah, I was already all up on him. And this actually shouldn't have been on that objective if you're looking at. I had the Mandos, like I said, screening there. So I'm already moving forward, no wall detected, and I've killed a bunch of his screens and chaffy units. I'm right on, as there's another point of view, as you can see. He responds with that Warp Spider fighting that character, and he kills a bunch of the commandos. So they're standing there. And then we move forward again. So here, this is what happens when he respawns with his units in the Dark Reapers, his Guardians, his Howling Banshees, these Warp Spiders that are over here, the dragons that get out from the top over there. So the Fire Dragons actually don't do well into bikers. Surprisingly, just not super well because they're more for vehicles and such. They obviously kill a bunch of them, but he was really wanting to kill my trike as well. He definitely could have, but these dudes still have 6-up invulns, guys, and I'm pretty sure I rolled at least one 6-up invuln. He did clear out the rest of the commandos and everybody that had come forward. He came forward with these Howling Banshees, but in in retrospect, it would have been better to do it that I would have tried to overwatch these Howling Banshees. But even though I know he could turn off one of the overwatches, I wasn't sure if he did it for. I think he did it for the Fire Dragons, because I was thinking of overwatching with my Death Killer War Trike unit. The amount of shots from that unit, if they hit it all and they're twin linked, they pretty much hurt Eldar units, because they're all little weak baby trash. And since I had so much stuff already on the lead field, I could use my seat strats for whatever I wanted. I was pretty much letting people know I could do that. And in reality, he turned that off, which means I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it to a different unit. And with this biker unit that was standing here, I was like, I could overwatch. And so I overwatched these Howling Banshee units because they wanted to come forward and start killing these little commandos and these Copta units or whatever they were trying to do. A better Overwatch, like I said, would have been these little Howling Banshees, because remember, he has a flamer and all that small arms fire that's twin linked with some AP. So I did use it on this unit instead, and I ended up killing 4 of those 5 units. I saved that unit for a purge later in the game. But from this point forward, the game's pretty much very gonna be very one-sided in that way, because uh just to sum it up, he knows that now I'm going to call the WAAAGH. So now what happens is I call the WAAAGH, and he was like, already kind of looking down at this point, because he knew that he was in extreme danger, and I hadn't even called the WAAAGH yet. So you can see I still have a biker unit down here in this corner that can still zoom through, and that's what happens. So, oh no, not the whole biker unit. I think they were hurt, and he's still alive. They didn't kill the whole unit. So what happens here is then the Coptas come forward. I call the WAAAGH. The Zagrot comes forward. these Coptas come forward. The dudes get out of the wagon and they come forward, and this guy comes forward, and I just hold him in place, not even really trying to kill any units per turn, and I just start scoring, and he understands that I'm essentially milking him for points. So he's not really trying to fight back anymore or kill anybody in response for points, and he's just letting me kind of go through the cards and get through the missions, because with what he has left and their profiles into my units that I still have left, I can just stand in front of him and just win the game at that point. And that's essentially what I end up doing. So when I go back to the scorecard, um, here. So there was no prisoners in cleanse. Like I said, out of those mandos that were the 5 mans that were standing on the side edges. Then we had engage on all fronts. As you can see, I was already engaged with him on all fronts and attempting target. We had established locus, marked for death. Didn't get that. We got secure no man's last, area denial, extend battle. Sorry, I did that all backwards. And behind enemy lines with sabotage. So, um, it was very much a mismatch in that case. But how I delivered it was, and as you can see, the other game I did one turn one wall with infantry, and this one I went with them, and I didn't wall. I just threw them forward, understanding what it could be. But in reality, he just didn't really have anything for me, and it played off really well in my favor. So then we go into sorry, he didn't actually get 10, 14 points. This guy, he didn't actually do that. The other guys did actually score. Let me sorry. So when you look at this actual player, Mike, he ended up getting 51 points. As you can see right here, my round 3 opponent. So he really did. The other guys, you can see that right here, the Eldari, he got the 14. That was right there. And then here's Dylan, he got the 10. So that really did happen. I didn't mess up their score. But for this player, I wanted to explain to him what was going on. He was a very technical, efficient player, very disciplined throughout the whole time. He never at any point showed any kind of quit or kind of like was overwhelmed by that many orcs being in his face. He was kind of in control and just systematically trying to kill them all. So he did get 50 points in this matchup. Most of his points were though from just killing stuff, because I did still jail him like I did everybody else. So it was take and hold, layout 8. It wasn't search and destroy. God dang, sorry, I thought I erased that guy. Sorry. And then it was me who went first. So as you can see, it wasn't called to search and destroy. Oops. This was turn 1. I think it was Dawn of War or something. I'm pretty sure it was Dawn of War again. Sorry, guys. I messed that. I should have not done that. Or it was the one that's like an angle across the field. From what it looks like, it was the angle across the field. I gotta look that up. Let me look. I'll say at the end of the video so I don't lose my momentum here. But what ends up happening is similar to what happens to other people when we were playing our games. I'm looking at this. Was that I had my like I said, I put my bike, like I learned from last games, and I put my battle wagon right here. It looks really bad. I'm sorry, I should have a picture of deployment, but I was a little nervous here. We had his scouts came up here because he understood what I want to do with my battle wagon and throw it forward. So he did try to slow it down with his scout unit that he tried to put in the way here. That's why my battle wagon's in that dumb kind of side position, but I still got like a 5-inch advance and then a big charge into his um incursors that were standing here, and he had a ATV inside this building, which my war boss made contact with, and my war boss with the knob one shot the ATV. Bikers just came up and started killing that. He has Centurions right here. Oh, I should have showed his list because his list actually had a ton of firepower. Let me show this guy's list. Sorry, guys. You can see I'm not used to doing this. So this was the player right here. Let me get to him. Um, this was before Centurions got nerfed, so now his list went up in points. But he had Adrax, Agaton, Lieutenant with combi weapons. He was playing the Forge Father Seekers, so he could fall back, but only with infantry. He had intercessors, which I took advantage of that once I understood that was the limitation. He had a Blade Guard veteran unit that was with Adrax Agaton that was inside of the Land Raider that he has. He had 3 units of the 3-man Devastator Centurions. Like I said, 2 Incursors, 2 ATVs, Land Raider Redeemer, a Scout, triple Vindicator. So his list was all firepower. He had already been doing well in his game's part to this. Um, So yeah, he already had been doing well in those games prior to that and killing people. He had all the tools to pretty much just shoot people off the table, and I was worried about that. So I was very like, man, do I really call turn one here or not? And it ended up being the right call, because if I ever let him take the initiative from me by not going first, not calling that wall, and I let him come out, like if I exposed myself like I did versus the Eldar without all my defensive buffs up, it would have been horrific. So I came forward instead. So I know this looks ugly and jarbled. Please forgive me. Like I said, I will definitely do better. But what happened is this biker unit still came forward. He had a unit tucked in over here. Um, and I ended up making a charge off onto that unit, which was like a 7-inch charge. I was grateful to get that off, and my Mandos made a charge off onto it as well. Zagrot, just straight up, I just understood I was Zagrotting him all day. So I told him I was going to. He overwatched him. Didn't we? It understood, but Zagrot went and touched all three of these vehicles. He touched the 2 Vindicators and the Land Raider Redeemer. He put 1 Vindicator into reserves, which I was grateful for in reality. And then, like I said, these boys that went forward, they killed the incursors and the ATV. So, like I said, how this list work is I always look to try to dismantle their scoring. That way, they definitely use their firepower for killing whatever's in their face, but then they run out of stuff to do their secondary back kind of activations, and or as they've destroyed me in late game, they don't have all these little tools to fill the field and keep scoring. So I knew that there was going to be almost no way I was going to kill this Land Raider or multiple of these Vindicators. I was going to even struggle to kill some of these Centurions, as you can see are on the field. He has one right here as well. Um, so and then he has the other one right here, and then I forgot where he has the other one. I think maybe he puts it in a reserve or something. I'm sorry, I should have known that better, guys. Here's his little intercessors. So as you can see, as I talked about in the beginning of the video, if I had a pain boy with those 20 boys, it wouldn't matter at all, right? He would still utterly erase his unit just as easily as without it, because these guys have frags that are multi damage as well. The amount of shots from the intercessors still is pretty decent. The Land Raiders, 2 damage, and then all these Vindicators are multi damage if he goes into them. So this was a quite successful turn, and I was very grateful for it because I killed most of the small chaff that I wanted to make contact with. He has a lieutenant with combi weapon right here that's behind this wall that I tagged, because he had come out and he was baiting me so he can react back to building. I said I didn't really care. I was still going to do it, right? That's the cool thing about this list is people are like, I have all these shenanigans, and my response is always, yeah, I have shenanigans. I'll reactive move too, or I'm just going to still run at you and charge you, bro. And that's what I did. So he has an ATV here, and then he has those Centurions underneath behind here, and then pretty sure he has another 3-man Centurion here that I think I don't know where my dumb self puts. Maybe it's inside of this. I don't think it can get inside of a Land Raider, but he does have another 3-man. Maybe it's behind this wall. My picture didn't show it. I mean, let's see if my other picture show it. Here's another point of view. As you can see, what I did, boom, of his deployment. This is turn 1. His deployment, I'm already on him. The 5-man Mandos, like I said, are back here. I will stack these deployments with Mandos, and then on the left side of the field, the bottom, you can see I put the other 5-man, and then the bikers are filling in the gap. So you can see I called a wall. Infantry came forward first. These bikers just ended up making another big charge, so I was grateful for the space. And then the follow-up turn will be bikers and Coptas, or just bikers. So here's his response turn where he comes forward and he kills stuff, but then I come forward as well with some more of my units. So this is turn 2 now. After he's responded to kill me, you can see the Centurions are all on the field. He brings around this ATV here and starts killing some of these units. The Vindicators shoot out of combat and kill the bikers that were there. Here is the other Centurion. It wasn't deep strike, sorry, or reserves. Here is his 3rd unit of the Centurions that was in reserves. I'll tell you how I lock those guys down very well and how I interact with all these Centurions. But on the following turn, when my bikers come forward and the wall's down, he erased all the boys. He erased Zogrot's unit, and he pretty much erased that other biker unit that was right down here. So he was chewing through me fast, very killy. I had overwhelming force at this point. Let me look at my secondaries, because in this one, the secondaries weren't mattering. I was caring very much about what I was scoring because I knew he was going to be putting me in the dirt best he could. So turn 1 was area denial and bring it down, and I did not bring it down. So I did get lucky still. As you can see, if you look, there's a wound counter on top of this Vindicator. The Death Killer Wartrike made a shot off on it, and then Zagrat made some punches off on it. So they heard it, but I didn't actually get to bring it down on it, even though that would have been pretty sick. Would have increased my score. But I failed to bring it down on turn 1. I did get area denial. And then turn 3, there was a call to horde drawing, and I obviously couldn't do that. So there was cleanse and then overwhelming force. this is a mistake on my end as well. This is why this reminded me of this is this was my overwhelming force target, and I was so focused on trying to lock him down that I didn't have like backup plans for killing this ATV. So I didn't use a grenade on it, which I could have. Maybe some more Copta investment or something, but nonetheless, I didn't score overwhelming force there, and I was sweating at that point, boys, because I was like, gosh, I'm not doing all my secondaries. He's gonna freaking eat me up if I don't do this. So with that being said, the bikers came forward. I chose in my head, I go, okay, I'm either gonna fight, um, these centurions, or I'm gonna fight these intercessors. I don't know what I really want to kill, and I ended up choosing the intercessors. So even though he's pulling them like this, you can see that they're actually dead from what I remember, because I choose to just kill his units instead of trying to lock down his in lock down a centurion. Instead of just killing his centurions and leaving the intercessors and the centurions down, like I'm going to kill these intercessors so they don't matter and still lock these centurions down. On the south side, what I do here is I charge these guys, and hopefully I think I have another picture here. I did not have a clear picture here. This is when he's trying to fall back, which I'll tell you about how I lock him down with that too. But because of the slowness of these centurions, even though he can fall back, he can't fall back to escape, either going backwards or outwards with the desperate escape to clear my Coptas. So I intentionally lock these guys down so they can't even fall back and shoot me and do anything, even though he has a CP for it. And then as for this unit, how I surrounded this guy as well, it makes it so that he can't really fall back and do anything either. Yeah, I split my attacks. That's what it was. So I split my attacks. I had put my knob and some boys into the centurions, and then I put my character and the rest of them to the intercessors, because how it was spread out for my charge. And I did end up killing a couple centurions between all the small arms and everything I did, but I focused on the intercessors and just picked them up when they came forward. So here he's trying to fall back. This is where he fails to fall back. Like we said, he has oathed my Copta units continuously because he's trying to kill them for his secondaries. Like I said, he's mostly getting bring it down and such. I use ingress to ingress his Coptas in here. Here's my other second unit of Coptas that are coming in. I try to stage my battle wagon somewhere safely so he can't draw lines of fire to it, because that's doing more of my secondaries and holding the position in the mid table. My shock jumps in the back. You see my big dice tray. I'm screening and making sure he can't actually get behind me with his one Vindicator that he has. And this is where his Vindicator has to actually end up because of that. So here's his combi lieutenant that's been hiding here all game. Let's see, yeah. So there's his, and he had a second small unit, I guess, or whatever that was. Or maybe I'm just misremembering, guys, to be honest. We'll see when the pictures look out, but nonetheless, I did have that moment where I was killing them. Maybe this is the moment. Let's see. So we have the bikers come in that didn't have a leader, and they came in and tagged these guys and did the same exact thing that Zod had done and locked them down. These Mandos are trying to kill this thing, but didn't kill him. As I said, I locked down these Centurions. Here's a better picture of it. Sorry about that. He's falling back with the Centurions to get away from my bikers. And this is turn 3 when he has his Vindicator come in, and his Vindicator, that's the only place he could come in. He could barely come in because we measured very well. If you look from here to here, that's barely over 9 inches away from here to here. So I almost locked down his Vindicator from being able to come in anywhere either, because the bikers are right here. So he couldn't really come in anywhere nice. It would have been back here. He couldn't come in here. So he literally, his pockets to come in was really right here from the whole table. And that's really what you want to do with this list. Keep that pressure on him. I wasn't really worried about killing him, keeping the pressure on him. So then we move forward when he falls back and he responds to me again. And here I come with the rest of my guys, my army. This is my final kind of main push on turn 3, as you can see. And so I fall back with my Def Coptas, and I don't kill these guys because he armors contempt and he goes to ground with them. So they just take 2 up armor saves with shooting. So then I turn around and charge this lieutenant with combi weapon. I use lance on him so I can get the volume of punches through, because he has a feel no pain. So I made sure I killed him as well. Coptas come up, and guess what they do? They just tag these guys all over again. I finally defeat that one Vindicator that was almost dead. I turn around and use the remaining bikers and the remaining Copta unit to run up and kill all the Chaffee type units. He still has that full brick of Centurions right here. So notice he still has both of his 3-man units of Centurions untouched, essentially killed, because I just keep touching multiple units. I slowly drag down one Centurion, slowly drag down one Vindicator, but the focus wasn't to kill them. It was just to stop them from initiating their own combat and engagements. So Very cool there, and that's pretty much the end of the game as we go through the points there. On turn 3, I get established locust and um secure no man's land, oh no, storm hostile objective, excuse me, storm hostile objective. And then turn 4, I get secure no man's land and engage on all fronts. So as you can see, I'm all over the place here. Even though he kills me, I still have little dumb units that run up and still get into the position, like a single copta, because the 4-up invul is a huge deal, and my random little 2-man mando units, because he still has to dig out those coptas, which he very much likes to do, and he focusing on here. This is how this looks as well. My turn 3, he's choosing, as you can see in his hand, the ult target. Turn 4, like I said, secure and engage. And then for turn 5, it's mark for death, where I get 2 points, and then a defend air denial. So yeah, that's what that was. That oop. Seeing his vindicator is going down as well. So I'm still able with a little bit of gas, but yeah, that's pretty much where the end of the game happens there. He can't score enough because primary anymore. He can't really go anywhere. This is how it looks on my side of the field where I've locked down everything. I still have infantry in the backfield that's able to score me secondaries and keep it going. This is a dead guy model. Shock jump still back there at the end of turn 3 to run up. Here it starts to look at the very end of the game. As you can see, I still have a Dev Killer Wartrike that's back here that hasn't died on my turn. I believe this is turn four here, where he's finally dug himself out. The Centurion's advanced to go inside of here because he wants to advance and do stuff. But the turn prior, but then now he's in here trying to score as well as secondaries. These little stupid trashy units are around, and I'm still able to uh, barely squeezed it by on scoring. So that's the end of that. As you can see, just end the pictures. So as for what's next for the Cult of Speed, so that game ended 92 51 right there. So 92-51, as you can see, is our game 3. So really, it was really great fun. The list was definitely catching everybody off guard. They were not prepared for it in the meta. Um, so I do want to run it as we move forward into the new meta that's going on. So let me know what you guys think. If I should keep this list or adjust it, you guys gotta let me know and support this video for me to keep doing it. I want to do one after action report every month. It doesn't always have to be a tournament. It can be just games with armies you guys want to see me do. Maybe the new Necrons, maybe some Vitrix Guard. You guys can call for it. Let me know in the comments. It's very important because I want to come out with new content for you guys. And this is the beginning of that this year. So and obviously, I got to hobby up on these Coptas to get them done. So that will take some more energy from you guys supporting it. So that being said, last thoughts on this. The list felt pretty fine as exactly how it was. I do have to be careful with my spacing, and I need more reps in to see what happens when enemies kind of lay into me turn 1 first. Obviously, this was everything went well and perfect for me, but sometimes that happens in events. Every people will tell you that. Sometimes you just get the path and things go your way and you go first, and sometimes you go second every game in the matchups you really don't want to. So it was still a great time. I'm glad I got to represent Cult of Speed, and I'm glad the community pushed me to do this. So thank you very much to you guys. And this was a product of the WAAAGH energy that the Great Wall gives me. So with that being said, leave a like, share, subscribe, let this be known. And there's going to be at least one every month, if not more. So with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall because we'll knock your teeth out. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!